Hey Gamer Gang, it's GM Jared here from Nothing Ventured, Nothing Game. And like I said before, here is my overview of D&D 1's expert playtest Ranger class. Now I want to start with the Ranger because I'm a big fan of Ranger. In my 3-year-long 5th edition campaign, one of my best friends, he was playing a Ranger, got to 20th level, so I kind of have a strong connection with the Ranger class. But stick around, I'm gonna shrink, and then on this side the Ranger stuff is gonna pop up. So welcome back. So I shrank and there's the Ranger stuff. I gotta remember my camera is backwards, so I'm technically pointing at my wall, but on the screen I should be pointing to the Ranger thing. So like I said, a few things have changed from 5th edition to this playtest, right? So the whole concept of backwards compatible, right? Can we play this if we were playing our current Ranger? Let's say you pick up 5th edition a week before D&D 1 releases, right? Like maybe you don't realize, and you're trying to get into the hobby, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm gonna pick up 5th edition. Your friends roll up characters, and then you're like, oh wait, the new edition's out, let me play that, right? So this is the reverse backwards compatible concept. So we can start up here, kind of looking at the Ranger stat blocks and stuff like that. It's all kind of the same. It's part of the expert class. That's something new. The class, they've kind of broken the classes down into specific groups. Ranger, Bard, and Rogue and technically Artificer are all part of the expert class. They are claiming that primary stats are Dex and Wisdom. Now, I have it highlighted. You could see it you could see it highlighted over here. Their proficiencies, hit points, all that stuff it stays exactly the same from 5th edition. So it stays exactly the same. You still get your D10 plus your con, or 6 plus your con. The same thing from 5th edition. Now your proficiencies, strength and dex, I kind of wish this had changed to represent more of what they're talking about here with the proficiencies, with the primary abilities where it's dex and wisdom. That change wouldn't have been much, and it just you instead of bubbling one thing in, you bubble in another. It doesn't change much. Skills, it's very similar. Skills are all very similar, exactly the same. Now here's some of the big stuff, right? So just looking at your chart now, from 5th edition to D&D 1, Rangers had in 5th edition, they were a spellcasting class. Rangers have a tradition of being a partial caster. In D&D 1, they've broken down the schools of magic into 3 schools: not primary, primal, arcane, and divine. So Rangers cast off of the primal casting sheet spell block. And here Rangers get expertise, which is something new. They didn't get expertise, and now they do. So that's kind of awesome. They get favorite enemy, and that changed completely. It did change completely, more or less. And they get spellcasting. So at level 1, you get spellcasting compared to your 5th edition character. It's now you have spellcasting at level 1, and you also get cantrips, which is nice because Rangers didn't get cantrips. So off the bat, I was kind of hoping they would remove or keep Ranger spellcasting limited, and then make a subclass that focus solely on spellcasting. My biggest concern is, and we haven't seen it yet, so if you're listening to this in the future and the druid class is out, my biggest concern is, how does the Ranger differ from the druid, especially since they're casting off a primal, as well as the druid is also casting off a primal. And now you have the fact that Rangers get druidcraft. That's something they get because it's part of the primal spell list. So now your Ranger looks a little bit more druidy than the druid currently. The big change for spellcasting is Rangers do not get evocation compared to the druids, who I'm assuming they just get all the primal spells. So Rangers can't select out of their spell list any evocation spells or spells that fall under the evocation class, but that's perfectly fine. As other videos have pointed out, you can take the magic initiate tree which we learned from the earlier playtest about class features and stuff like that. And as a feat, you could take Magic Initiate and grab Hex. So now there's like builds, like you just see people talking about it, like Rangers can now off the bat use Hex, and they're part of their favorite enemy ability, which is you get Hunter's Mark for free as a Ranger, and it's no longer Concentrate. That like now people are like, oh my goodness, you can have a Ranger cast Hex and Hunter's Mark and blah, damn it. Blah, 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 blah. Players are always better than the monsters, and this just kind of represents it a little bit more, that the players are going to be, the game is weighed heavily in the player's favor than it is in the GM's favor. But remember, as a GM, you could literally just turn around and be like, 15 red dragons come and everyone's dead. You end your campaign early. But there goes my rant. So spellcasting, I kind of wish, not a big fan of the whole, like they're now full casters kind of. They're also every morning they could change out their spells. They just have to take a long rest and they could change out their spells. That's another thing I'm a little concerned about, is how does this make the spellcaster classes feel different and feel more castery, right? Like that's kind of my biggest concern, is we have these now full casters, cantrip using Rangers. How does that make my druid feel? Does my druid feel equally as good or better at casting spells than the Ranger? Because the Ranger, their focus is they're the hybrids, right? And now they're experts in specific things. So does my druid have something different? I'm excited to see what they do with the druid, but I hope they look at this and they say, okay, druids have to be different. How do we make druids different? I'm concerned that they might back themselves into a corner, and by making Rangers better, they make druids less. So we'll see how that plays out, because now Rangers have healing, right? Because they have access to the primal spell list. So like I said, you get spell slots. They tell you how many spell slots you get. Your spell prep, we talked about that. You could get Guidance, Hunter's Mark, and Thorn Whip. Cure Wounds, you have that. Favorite enemy, so this is the important change, right? So these two, expertise and favorite enemy, are the two big changes at level 1. You gain expertise in 2 of your skills. That makes Rangers really dope, especially if you don't have let's say you're playing a survival based adventure. So you have your druid, your ranger, your fighter, and maybe your nature cleric, right? Or a cleric, like a healing cleric, right? So you have your standard 4, and you're like, well, what about traps and such? You could have your ranger. The ranger could take on kind of that perception, expertise in perception, and expertise in sleight of hand and skills like that, where they could kind of make up for not having the thief. Or be specifically like they could take, survival and stealth, like they say here. So that's kind of really cool. Now you have favorite enemy. You mark a single foe. So this changed dramatically. Obviously, other videos explain it. If you're playing from 5th edition, you now understand what you're looking at. Basically, you don't have that limited list of monsters. I could choose hags, and then sure, maybe if I'm playing Curse of Strahd, I might think they're hags and definitely undead, right? But maybe I'm like, I don't want to just specifically just choose undead because I know we're dealing with vampires. So I'm going to choose hags, right? Or I'm going to open myself up to the option of not min-maxing and not making myself, specific. Or even if you're in a campaign and there's no, you're kind of free-forming and you're just going with whatever the GM does, you're not sure. You might take hags because there was an arc with a hag, but now you're in a whole different story arc and there's no hags, and your hunter, your favorite enemy, it was so arbitrary. So now your favorite enemy is specifically Hunter's Mark. You always have Hunter's Mark. It's not concentration, and you cast it, right? It lasts for the full duration of Hunter's Mark as per the way it was written in 5th edition currently, and once you can, until the end, you end it. As a bonus action, you can pop it around and stuff like that, or if you get incapacitated. So That's what favorite enemy is. A lot of people, that's a thumbs up, right? That's a good. And now you have your fighting styles, right? So this was the big change. Fighting styles are now feats based on the fighter class. I forgot what they called them. They called them something different in this. But so now feats have, some feats are specific to certain classes or groups of classes, right? So if a feat says you have to be part of the expertise class and you're not a rogue, ranger, artificer, or bard, you're kind of opted out of that ability. Fighting styles, they basically tell you you can take fighting style feats at level 2, so you can opt into that and you can choose as you level. For here, they give you your list. So you have archery, defense, 2-weapon fighting. They got rid of dueling, which was from 5th edition. You know, you could do sword and board, but now if you're switching from that, from 5th edition to this D&D 1, they might need to just take defense and have it run like that. It lowers their ability to fight. But here's my problem, and this is the bad. And I think overall, this is the bad for this playtest. We now found out on your attack action, if you have a finesse weapon, a light a light weapon in your offhand, you can, so if you have 2 daggers, right, 2 light weapons, your main attack, you can attack with both weapons as per the standard attack, so it's no longer a bonus action. So I feel like now we're just going to see a lot of dark elves / drow rangers whose names are drats, and they have a lot of panther themed stuff, because that's kind of what they're setting this up for. They're leaning heavily into the R.A. Salvatore main titular character, ranger character from that story series. I don't like that. I'm sad. You know, maybe that was an oversight. Maybe they said, well, we'll give them 3 options currently. As we go on, and especially as we look into subclass, for the ranger, it's super weird. There's a lot of things I dislike so far when looking at rangers. So they fixed like the favorite enemy and stuff, and they gave it some class bonuses, but the subclass, it's super all over the place. And I know it's a playtest, and that's there for a reason, but I'll get into it. So, you know, 3rd level ranger class for this Unearthed Arcana, you only get the hunter dedication, or the hunter class subclass. That's what it is, so we have to look at that. 4th level, you got a feat. I'm not going to go through the levels. I'm just going to go talk about the important stuff that you get as we go, because I don't want to keep everyone here forever. You know, yeah, extra attack at 5th level. Now they can attack 4 times. I wonder if they're removing, right? So if I'm dual wielding, I can attack 4 times, right? Because my single attack action, I can attack twice with my offhand weapon. And then if I get extra attack, that allows me to attack 4 times on my turn at 5th level, which is cool. But are they getting rid of the bonus action attack? And then also, how do monks play into this? Because if the whole thing is flurry of blows and stuff like that with the monks, and monks being focused on multiple attacks, you know, how is this all going to play into everything? You know, I'm interested to see how this plays out with the other classes and with the concept of having that double attack on your single attack action. Roving, this is a cool one. This is, I believe, from Tasha's. It was like the update. So a lot of the this D&D 1 class is basically the stuff we saw from Tasha's ported over, and they were like, no, just trust us. Tasha was better. We had time. It marinated, and now the stew is better. You know, and anyone who cooks will tell you stew is always better the next day because the flavors have time to sit and get awesomer. Roving took over for the 6th level optional class feature, which was from 5th edition. Your walking speed increases by 5, and you're getting climb speed and swim speed equal to your walking speed. So we got 10 extra feet. We got extra 5 feet, right? So that's pretty cool. At 9th level, you get another set of expertise, which is awesome. You can't double back on the expertise you've already had, so you're not going to have like a bajillion points of stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Subclass Tireless. Primal forces help fuel you. So this changes from the Tireless that we had from the 5th edition Tasha increase. So it's D8 plus your wisdom from the original Tireless from 5th edition, and you can use this action as an action. You give yourself temps, right? So it's very similar to the surge the heroes get, the fighting class get. So that's, you can use this action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you, when you take a long rest, you gain all your ability, all this stuff back. Additionally, it shortens your exhaustion level. Exhaustion has changed in this. So for this Tireless, it changed levels. So Tireless you got in 5th edition at 10th level. Now you get it at 11th level here. 10 hit points. You get 10 hit points every time you finish a short or long rest. That's really big, especially if you're playing with warlocks. Short rest are a common thing. And you get 10 hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus a D8. Why don't they just make it con plus your a D8? I understand proficiency bonus is less, but that's so weird. It's so weird. And then you decrease exhaustion when you finish a short rest. So this one is just based on short rest, not long rest. And it decreases by 1. They've now expanded the amount of exhaustion. I'm excited for that. I think we're going to start seeing more games moving forward have exhaustion be a part of it. If you played Rime of the Frost Maiden, that was a part of it, was exhaustion can happen frequently in that game. And so now it's changed. At 13th level, Nature's Veil. This one, as a bonus action, you just become invisible for spending a spell slot. So you're just like the Predator. You Predator invisibility. That's pretty cool. At 15th, Feral Senses, you get Blind Sight with 30 feet. That's awesome. If you're playing a dwarf that we saw, they had, I believe they had Tremor Sense, the dwarf from the playtest had Tremor Sense. So now you could have Blind Sight and Tremor Sense, and basically the GM will not like you anymore. Foe Slayer, your Hunter's Mark does a D10 instead of a D6 at 18th level. That was the capstone originally for Rangers, and now it moved down because we talked about this before. Capstone stuff moved to 18th, and at 20th level, you get your boons, your epic boons. Now, I think Foe Slayer is dope. That was their capstone before. What I would have liked to have seen is maybe D12 instead of a D10. Make it more, right? Because players don't really get to 18th, 20th level. I hope with D&D 1, we start to see more campaigns that push to 20th level. But as we stand, we only see players get to 10th level. So if we already know that players don't get to 20th level, then show that, like, make it worth their while. It's only it's not huge. It's not huge to begin with. A D12 makes it even better. Anyway, subclass. This is the important stuff. And now let's talk about the subclass, right? And this oh my goodness. Okay. So the original subclasses for the Ranger, right? Were the Beastmaster and the Hunter were the original 2 from 5th edition, right? Here they give us Hunter. I'm a little sad they didn't give us Beastmaster, because I would love to see what they're working on Beastmaster to see how good it becomes, even if they keep it. But so now let me give you the bad of this whole thing. It is a playtest, so I don't know. But the way they have it set up is Hunter gets this list of stuff. So there's a list of stuff. Now in 5th edition, when you chose Hunter, your subclass, Hunter for Ranger gave you a lot of choices even in those choices, right? Now I know what you could say as well, you're getting feats now. Feats change the everything. Feats make everything more, right? Now my character can feel more. Sad. I'm super sad. I dislike that. I thought having multiple choices in a subclass was cool. The Hunter had multiple choices. For this one, you don't have those choices, right? So, Hunter's Prey. Basically, this is from the original Colossal Slayer from Hunter. And this is what I'm talking about, them kind of creating this the Dritz clone. Whenever you hit a creature with a weapon or an unarmed strike, as part of the attack action on your turn, the weapon or unarmed strike deals an extra d8 points of damage to the target if it's missing any hit points. So, the way it seems written is in my attack action, I strike with my main hand, dealing damage, thus lowering the creature to below its maximum hit points. And then I strike with my offhand. Now, while that doesn't add my strength or my dex modifier, I'm now dealing an additional d8. So that d4 is now d4 plus d8. So it's, let's say I'm using 2 daggers, right? Or a short sword and a dagger. So it's d6 and d4 d8 dagger. Hunter's Prey. You can only deal this once per turn. That's fine. That's like it was from Colossal Slayer. Because of the whole extra attack thing, I just feel like if I wanted to play a ranger that wasn't using 2 weapons, I'm now undercutting myself, because I feel like I'm not doing the right thing. So that's some of my concerns. Now I'm starting to see things I'm not liking so much. So we'll see. Well, moving on, Hunter's Lore. You call on the forces of nature to reveal information about your prey. I like this. I think this is a cool ability. I'm a big fan of this specific stuff where you learn more about your creatures. You get this at 6th level. Most monsters at 6th level already have we don't know what the monsters look like, but if you're looking at it, let's say you're fighting a werewolf, it's just going to tell you they're immune to non-magical weapons and nothing silver. Sorry. Yeah. So like I was saying, werewolves, right? So they are CR3, and they are damage immunities, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't silvered. So if I have a magical weapon, it goes past that ability, and at 6th level, I should have a magical weapon, and they have to be silvered. Not that they have to be silvered, but silver hurts the were creature, right? Cool beans. Most monsters in 5th edition have the exact same thing: damage immunities, bludgeon, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. They don't have more. Most of them don't have any more than that. They got rid of cold iron and stuff like that. There aren't items like that anymore. So what does this really do? Now, as a GM, I could say, oh, well, you now know that werewolves won't run into fields of wolfbane flowers. Cool, that's stuff I added in, but that's as if I'm a new GM, I'm looking at your monsters and I'm just saying, oh, well, their damage immunities are bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and from non-magical attacks that aren't silvered. Okay. And that's the same thing we're going to see for other monsters. And let's look at the adult black dragon, right? So I brought up the adult black dragon on my screen, looking at it. So now the nature, the thing says, I know immunities, resistance, and vulnerabilities. Well, adult black dragon's immune to acid. That's it. So what does this give me at 6th level? That at 10th level, it makes, it becomes something useless, right? I didn't like this. I know it's not I hope this isn't how they keep it. Maybe Hunter's Lore could be something the Rangers get as a natural thing that takes place at level 3 or at 7th level. That I believe, just as a Ranger ability, you should get this. And then maybe something in Hunter, it should be something else, right? It's for a 6th level. Maybe they get defensive tactic you know, they have that. It's so weird. It's so, you know, they, you know, opportunity attacks against me, the escape the horde, opportunity attacks against me are made with disadvantage. That'd be dope at 6th level, because that doesn't even depend on me how I fight. If just a monster gets next to me, I can run away, and then the attacks are at disadvantage. Stuff like that. Maybe, you know, something like that. Change that a little bit. At 10th level, you get Contra Barrage. It's automatically a prepared spell, and it doesn't count against the number of spells prepared. This is really cool. I could downcast it, which is really cool. It does a D8 for each spell slot below 3rd level. Really cool. I like seeing the fact that we can now downcast stuff, you know, because we already had the ability to upcast, so now it's great to see the ability to downcast. Dope. I like seeing that. What if I'm playing the 2-weapon fighter ranger? Because up to the 10th level, it made sense to be a 2-weapon fighter. My hunter's prey gave me that extra D8, you know, knowing the weakness, meh. But I took earlier, my fighting style was 2-weapon fighting, and now I have Conjured Barrage. Okay. Multi, and they call it multi-attack, which is confusing because there's extra attack, and now I have multi-attack. But they give me Conjured Barrage, which is cool that I got a free spell slot, or a free spell ability, but maybe they could have 2 types. Maybe, you know, one could be focused specifically on ranged abilities, and Conjure Barrage would be there, and then maybe one focused on martial abilities, you know, melee abilities. That would be nice. That's just my opinion. At 14th, you have Superior Hunter's Defense. This is like a mashup of Stand Against the Tide and Whirling and Evasion. It's it's Superior Hunter's Defense from the original Hunter. This one now, it says if you're attacked, I could redirect it to an enemy. So if I'm swarmed by enemies, I can redirect it. But at 10th level, the game kind of like saying, hey, you should be a ranged character because we're giving you Conjured Barrage. The 14th level makes sense when you look at, if you exclude the multi-attack ability, because the way they're setting you up is for dual wielding, right? 2-weapon fighting. Because you have at 3rd level, you have that Hunter's Mark. Not Hunter's Mark, the original Colossal Slayer, you know, the D8 of damage, the hunter's prey. And now at 14th level, I'm now surrounded, but that would make sense because I'm running into combat and I'm surrounded by enemies. So I'm redirecting attacks, taking half damage, and then on my attacks, I'm now dealing you know, because now I'm also like, let's say turn 1, initiative goes, I'm swarmed by a bunch of red caps, a whole mess of red caps swarm me, right? At 14th level, I don't know why you're fighting that many red caps. Let's just say 6 red caps swarm me, right? So we're on the grid, and basically my whole thing is swarmed by red caps. They roll better initiative than me at 14th level, whatever. I roll a 1, right? It's not critical failure, but it's just the 1. I rolled 1. Boo. And they attack, right? And now I could deflect these attacks to cause damage to everyone around me, right? I deflect it. All the enemies now have taken damage, and now with my Hunter's Prey, they're already below damage, which is fine, but I'm 2-weapon fighting, and so I'm now dealing a butt ton of damage. I have that extra attack, so I'm attacking 4 to 5 times a turn. So I'm wiping everything out around me. Additionally, I have Conjured Barrage, which is a cone, a 60-foot cone of damage, which is great, but it doesn't, that 10th level doesn't match the 14th level, and that's what I'm talking about. So that's a big change. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, Rangers have become more robust. They've gotten more out of them. You have Hunter's Mark, which favorite enemy, which gives you Hunter's Mark for free, and you already have all that, and that's really awesome. A lot of the specific changes have made the Hunter class more robust. Expertise, having that happen twice, makes you more robust as a character. You now have those abilities. The Vanish ability, the roving is great. Vanishing, you know, being able to just Predator, you know, bloop, 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 and it turn invisible. And that invisibility is specifically till the end of your next turn. So that's a lot. That is a lot for a bonus action. So the standard ranger is awesome. The hunter, so that's the good. The flat ranger is the good. The bad is the hunter class. It's so weird. Now you could say like, hey, I could still use a bow, but I'm not getting the hunter's prey isn't really it's not the best if I'm using a bow, right? Because I only get that pling, that one shot. But with the dual weapon, 2-weapon fighting, I get the extra attack and that extra damage. The math is there if even dealing damage. Hunter's Law is mediocre at best at 6th level. It doesn't make sense. And yeah, I know it's whenever a hunter's mark that specific enemy, I learned stuff about that. But for the most part, if there is a lich and a bunch of undead, I hunt marks the lich to deal the most damage because I'm going to target the lich. I learn lich like immunities. Cool beans. You know, I target the skeletons. I learned that one skeleton, but I'm assuming all the other skeletons have that. I've never had the chance to play with someone who changes immunities and resistances on the large group of enemies, right? We all know fire giants are immune to fire. So Hunter's Lore is mediocre. It's the bad. Then you have multi-attacked at 10th level, which you get the free spell slot, the free spell, Contra Barrage, which is awesome. But if you were the way you set me up for 2-weapon fighting, now I'm archery. So now I have 2 dead abilities, kind of. Hunter's Lore, not so much. Maybe like especially if I'm playing in the astral planes, or if I'm plane jumping or fighting in Avernus and stuff like that. I don't really know much about demons and devils. Hunter's Lore can be effective for a while, and plane jumping for a while, right? But soon we're going to start to see reoccurring effects. Multi-attack now, if I'm using 2-weapon fighting and I've already taken that fighting star earlier on, and now I take a 10th level, you give me Contra Barrage, and now I'm like, okay, cool. I'll never use this. I appreciate having it, but I'll never really use it, or there'll be the off chance that I do use it. And then Superior Hunter's Defense, that's cool. But again, if I'm now leaning into the whole ranged effect, then the Superior Hunter's Defense doesn't affect me because I'm no longer running into combat. So there's this weird cycle. So I think the bad is the hunter subclass, the good is the flat ranger, and the ugly is, and a lot of people have said this, I agree. The ranger has lost a lot of stuff that made them feel rangery. I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like they've lost a lot of flair that made them rangery. Additionally, I'm a little concerned with the spell casting. And again, how is the druid going to look different than the ranger? Besides the obvious, right? Like, oh, the druid can shape change into a bear, but on the primal spellcasting list, polymorph is there. So the ranger can polymorph themselves into something. The same thing with the summoning of, they could summon, forest animals. That spell is on the ranger's list now too, so the ranger can summon that. Obviously the amount of spells they can cast will be lower, but I just want to see that difference. So currently that's ugly for me. So hopefully you enjoyed that, gamer gang. As always, it's a pleasure to do these videos for everyone out there. And if you can do me a solid, and if you got this far in the whole thing, do the thing, like, subscribe, and if you want, share it with your friends. It helps get the numbers out there. We're at like 430-ish, 429. It goes up and down constantly, which is kind of weird. I would love to be able to hit 500 sooner than later, before 2023. That'd be cool. That's my goal. Hit 500 subs by 2023. That'd be pretty fun. But I appreciate everyone out there, even so everyone's awesome. I appreciate you all. Let me know what you think. Do you like the new stuff with the rangers? Do you hate the new stuff with the rangers? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you like my shirt? Let me know in the comments down below. So from all of us here, especially myself, GM Jared, want to say we are Nothing Venture, Nothing Game. Love rolling dice, giving advice with a little bit of that New York spice. See ya.